The Battle of Buxar was fought on the 22nd of October 1764 between the forces under the command of the British East India Company led by Hector Munro and the combined army of Mir Qasim, the Nawab of Bengal, the Nawab of Awadh, and the Mughal king Shah II. The battle fought at Buxar, a small fortified town within the territory of Bengal, located on the bank of the Ganges River about 130 kilometers west of Patna, was a decisive victory for the British East India Company. Battle. British troops engaged in the fighting numbered 7,072, comprising 857 British, 5,297 Indian sepoys and 918 Indian cavalry. The Alliance Army's numbers were estimated to be over 40,000. According to other sources, the combined army of the Mughals, Awadh and Mir Qasim, consisting of 40,000 men, was defeated by a British army comprising 10,000 men. The Mughal camp was internally broken due to a quarrel between the Mughal Emperor Shah II and II.The, the Nawab of Awadh. Mir Qasim was reluctant to engage the British, and instead went off to collect tribute. The lack of basic coordination among the three desperate allies was responsible for their decisive defeat. Mirza Najaf Khan commanded the right flank of the Imperial Army and was the first to advance his forces against Hector Munro at daybreak. The British lines formed within 20 minutes and reversed the advance of the Mughals. According to the British, Durrani and Rohilla cavalry were also present and fought during the battle in various skirmishes. But by midday the battle was over and II.The blew up large tumbrils and 3 massive magazines of gunpowder. Hector Munro divided his army into various columns and particularly pursued the Mughal Grand Vizier II.The, the Nawab of Awadh, who responded by blowing up his boat bridge after crossing the river, thus abandoning the Mughal Emperor Shah II and members of his own regiment. Mir Qasim also fled with his 3 million rupees worth of gemstones and later even committed suicide. Mirza Najaf Khan reorganized formations around Shah II, who retreated and then chose to negotiate with the victorious British. British losses are said to have been 1,847 killed and wounded, while the 3 Indian allies suffered 2,000 dead. Many more were wounded. The victors captured 133 pieces of artillery, 6,000 Mughals and over 1 million rupees of cash. Immediately after the battle, Hector Munro decided to assist the Marathas, who were described as a warlike race, well known for the relentless and unwavering hatred towards the Mughal Empire and its Nawabs and the Sultanate of Mysore. Aftermath. The prime victim, Shah II, signed the Treaty of Allahabad that secured Diwani rights for the company to collect and manage the revenues of almost of real estate, which form parts of the modern states of West Bengal, Odisha, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Uttar Pradesh. As Mir Qasim, who was not a general, was quietly replaced. He also received a small share of the total land revenue, initially fixed at 2 million rupees. The Treaty of Allahabad heralded the establishment of the rule of the East India Company in 1/8 of India proper with a single stroke. The battles of Plassey and Buxar secured a permanent foothold for the British East India Company in the rich province of Bengal, and secured its political ascendancy in the entire region. Buxar should be seen in conjunction with the Third Battle of Panipat in January 1761 in terms of its impact on consolidating British presence in northeast India. By the Treaty of 1752, the Marathas had essentially taken over administration of all the subas of the Mughal Empire. and had established the right to collect chauth across these subas. In return, they would protect the northwest frontier of the Mughal Empire from Afghan invasion. This resulted in 9 years of Maratha-Afghan struggle to establish control over the empire and the Suba of Punjab, which was claimed by both. However, due to the Marathas' defeat at the Third Battle of Panipat, and the subsequent 10-year hiatus from North Indian affairs, the British were able to establish a foothold in North Indian affairs. Buxar was an important step in that direction. Nawab Shuja-ud-Daulah was restored to Oudh with a subsidiary force and guarantee of defense. The Emperor Shah Alam II solaced with Allahabad on a tribute and the frontier drawn at the boundary of Bihar. For Bengal itself, the company took a decisive step. In return for restoring Shah Alam II to Allahabad, the company got from him the imperial grant of the Diwani, a revenue authority in Bengal and Bihar. This had hitherto been enjoyed by the Nawab of Bengal. Thus now there was a double government, the Nawab retaining judicial and police functions but the company exercising the revenue power. The company was acclimatized, as it were, into the Indian scene by becoming the Mughal revenue agent for Bengal and Bihar. There was as yet no thought of direct administration, and the revenue was collected by company-appointed Deputy Nawab Muhammad Reza Khan. But this arrangement made the British East India Company the virtual ruler of Bengal, since it already possessed decisive military power. All that was left to the Nawab was the control of the judicial administration, but he was later forced to hand this over to the company in 1793. Thus the company's control was virtually complete. In spite of all this, the East India Company was again on the verge of bankruptcy, which stirred the British to a fresh effort at reform. On the one hand, Warren Hastings was appointed with a mandate for reform. On the other, an appeal was made to the British state for a loan. The result was the beginnings of state control of the company and the 13-year governorship of Warren Hastings. Hastings's first important work was that of an organizer. In the 2.5 years before the Regulating Act came into force, he put in order the whole Bengal administration. The Indian deputies who had collected the revenue on behalf of the company were deposed and the places taken by a board of revenue in Calcutta and English collectors in the districts. This was the real beginning of British administration in India. It should also be noted that when the Marathas finally did send a large force back into North India in 1771, they were able to persuade Shah Alam II to leave British protection and enter Maratha protection. They then established Maratha Regency over Delhi, which they essentially held till the defeat in the Second Anglo-Maratha War of 1803.